So today, since I can't think of anything to talk about once again, I'm going to talk about something from my past. It's an anime that I watched that I don't think a lot of people know about. It's called Glass Mask, and it's a shoujo anime. That's an anime that's directed towards girls, basically. It's a girls. It's the audience is girls, and so it's an anime that is about acting. And the basic premise is there is this 50-year-old woman who is, I forget what her name is, but it doesn't matter what her name is. She was an actress in this very, very famous play. Very famous, very popular play. I think it's called The Crimson Goddess or something. And it's like it was a play that was so phenomenal that like people would come from all over the world just to see a show of it. And she was so good in it that like everyone would want to see it. But eventually, during one of the shows of the play, a stage light, because she played in this play, right? She was the main character in this play. It was like a very beautiful character. I forget, like it have to be like a very beautiful face and a very beautiful subtle acting. But the eventually, at some point, a stage light breaks from its harness and falls on her face in the middle of a play and completely ruins her face and makes her ugly, so she can no longer play the part. And so she stops the play. She cancels the play. She ends the play because she actually owns the rights to the play. And a lot of people from all over, like want a lot of people who own theater companies, who own who have acting groups, want to get access to this play, but she's not giving it up because she thinks that the only way she's going to give this play up, the only way she's going to allow this play to run, is if she can find an actress who is so good at acting that she's worthy of playing in this play, The Crimson Rose. And that's what the starting premise of this is. But it's not where the story starts. The story actually starts with this girl named Maya, who is, say, very, very much a fan of TV dramas and plays and all that kind of stuff, and stories and whatever, to the point where if she starts watching a show on TV, even if she's in the middle of doing something else, she would just stop it and just completely be focused and enveloped in the drama of whatever was on TV. It's just like she couldn't help it. It was uncontrollable. And people around her are wondering what the hell's wrong with her. But like, what it turns out is she's just a really talented actress underneath. She's just really, really talented. She's extremely talented to the point where she can watch an entire TV show all like one time and remember every single line from it, and to the point where she can act out all of the characters, all of the different characters, remember all the character names, change their faces, and like just act these things out. And she would do this. She would watch like a TV show, and then she would just act it out in front of people. And so one day she's acting out like some TV show that she watched, changing her face for all the characters and like switching around positions, in front of a bunch of kids at a park. And that old lady, or the 50-year-old woman who owns the Crimson Goddess, sees Maya doing this and sees her and sees how talented she is and how good she is at acting. And so she gets a hold of her, and she takes her and she brings her into her theater troupe. And she wants to train. It's like she sees so much. Like it's more like she sees like a lot of potential in Maya. She doesn't necessarily think that she's ready to play the Crimson Rose character yet, but she sees the potential and she wants to train her. So she brings her into her acting troupe and teaches her through like a series of plays. But meanwhile, there's this other actress. This actress who is another young girl, the same girl, like the same age as Maya, who was born a rich girl. Her mother and her father were famous actors, and they all have a lot of money, and she's like a natural pianist, and she can play like 70 different instruments, and she has access to all of the acting, all of the classic plays, and she's already been trained like heavily since she was 6 at acting, and that's all she wants to do. And basically she's like the learned actor, whereas Maya is the instinctual actor who just has like by instinct knows what to do. Ayumi, who is the rich girl, is the learned actor. But anyways, these two, so basically these two actresses, they like live, or they are in different acting troupes, and they kind of compete with each other. Like the troupes would put on plays, and like whatever play got the best was like the winner or whatever. You know, there were like these play tournaments. I don't know. It was just cool. There was a lot of acting stuff and theater stuff, and I thought it was cool to see theater stuff about like that. I don't know. It was fun to watch that kind of stuff. And eventually, these two actresses come together, and then they act in plays together, countering each other. And like, there's a lot of like weird acting training that goes on in this show. Like, there's this one point where the 50-year-old woman, she really wants them to get apart. Really wants them. There's this scene in a play where they have to come from a cold, cold winter and see the first day of spring, and they have to be able to act that as if it's actually real without there being any evidence of it on stage. So they have to be able to just show the difference between the cold and the warmth. So she takes them and she puts them into like a walk-in freezer and locks them in there for like 15 minutes. And they're like freezing to death. And then they finally come out, and then they get that feeling of, oh, it's so warm. It's so nice. And like there's a lot of stuff like that, where it's like, it's just crazy acting exercises, you know, like the old woman, she would lock Maya into a room until she got her lines right, until she was able to speak with different characters. And there were a lot of plays in this, like basically every 3 episodes was a different play that we're acting in. There was also like the rich girl was kind of like she was the learned type. She didn't really know how to instinctually act, so she would have to look at someone acting in order to get a part. There was this one part, there's this one point in the series where she didn't know how to act like she was in love, because she had never really been in love and never really had a boyfriend or whatever. And so she just walks up to like some random young kid on the street, some random young teen, you know, her age, on the street, and says, "Hey, you want to be my boyfriend?" And he like has this expression, you know, like, of what? And then she uses that. She uses the knowledge she gained from his expressions. And then she becomes his boyfriend for like one day. And then she breaks up with him just so she can learn how to be in the character of that. And whatever. It's kind of a ridiculous show, but it's very fun to watch, especially if you're into acting. And I think part of the reason why I like it so much is because it's almost like a fantasy. Because Maya is so good at acting. She's so natural at acting that she just does these things instinctually, and like it's like a fantasy of mine to be so good at acting that I just, oh my god, I just turn on everybody on the stage just like immediately sees me in character. I'm just so good at this, you know. So I don't know, that's some deep dark fantasy dream of mine to be a great actor, so good that like whatever I'm put in, I just like immediately know what to do, and I'm so good at that. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Whatever. I still have some time left. Is there anything else I could say about this? I actually, the first time I watched this series, I think it might have been the first time that I realized that stories can have themes, because, or I guess like stories have like, they kind of spend an interesting amount of time showing like what is interesting in a play, or what is interesting in acting. Like, there's one point where Maya has to play the character Beth from Little Women, I think. Is that what the book was called? It was made into a play. She has to play the character Beth, and they're trying to show what was interesting about that by having her like slowly like sing a song as she's dying in a bed or whatever. There's a point where she has to play, where actually both characters are playing separate versions of the same play. They're doing the play The Miracle Worker, and they're both trying to come up with like they're playing the blind girl who is blind and deaf and has to feel, that The Miracle Worker, if you haven't seen it, is about a blind girl who's blind and deaf, and then this teacher who tries to teach her how to talk, because the only way she's able to teach her how to talk is by having to do like hand symbols and for the letters, the sign language for the letters, and have them feeling out. And eventually it ends with like her discovering that. But there's a scene in that movie and in the play where she realizes, where the character, the blind deaf girl, Helen Keller, realizes what the teacher is doing, and realizes that these weird hand symbols that she's suddenly feeling are actually mean something, and that the things actually have words to them, and that like it's like a very exciting moment. And both these characters, Maya, back to Glass Mask, not talking about the actual play Miracle Worker anymore. I'm talking about Glass Mask. Maya and Ayumi are trying to play the character of Helen Keller, and they're trying to figure out how they can act out this scene where she discovers that water is a word, right? Where she touches water and she realizes that it's a word. And they both come up with different reasons. Like they're looking through the world and trying to find out. I believe the one that Maya came up with is like she was splashed in the face instantaneously. And they're like, it was like, so it's like a splash in the face. That's what the realization was like for her. And so she put that into her acting. And then there was Ayumi, the rich girl. She was like touching water at some point, and then like there was like a plug or something in the water, and she got like an electric shock. And so like she like took that, like the electric shock, like the discovery that water is a word was like an electric shock to her system, and she used that in her acting in that play. And they both played the play differently as the same character. Whatever. There was a lot of stuff like that. And I really liked it. And it's been 11 minutes and 9 seconds, so I think this is the end for now. But yeah, if you haven't seen Glass Mask and you're kind of a fan of theater stuff and acting and I don't know, drama, there's a lot of drama there's like a lot of needless drama in there too. Between the characters and between different, like, a lot of stuff like that. But whatever. If you're interested in seeing that, go check out Glass Mask. It's pretty good. This is the end of the Kokino Podcast for now. I'll see you guys next time.